Can I share your live? I guess I can, eh?
I guess you can.
All right. Well, I'll watch for your Matt Kundle is live.
Yeah. I believe we're actually up and going now. This is going to be like the most unprofessional start to any Facebook Live that's ever been done in the history of anything. So
Yeah, hold my beer.
yeah. Oh goodness me. Anyway, and the best part is every time like the show just starts, then the coffee runs out. Right.
Oh, I just finished my coffee when you called me, so.
All right. For those who are watching this, by the way, this is the Sound Off Show. I'm Matt Kundle, and I always said that I should be doing more of this, and other people say I should be doing more of this, but I haven't gotten around to it till now. So here we are, and we're joined today by Aiden Wolf. Hi, Aiden. How are you?
I'm not doing too bad. A little early for me, but
Yeah, I guess we got 9 your time. I'm 10 o'clock. Am I 10? No, it's 9:25.
I'm 10. You're 9.
Yeah, so you're complaining about early. What's your problem? I'm earlier.
I've been unemployed all summer. This is early.
All right. Good. Anyway, I tried to do some split screen action with the Skype. I don't think it's actually got you in a live picture, so which is rather.
So I'm not in this. Just my voice.
Yeah. Well, there's a picture of you, but you're kind of frozen. So obviously some kinks to work out with that. So we'll get to that somewhere down the line. So.
This is great.
All right.
You've been working on this. I like that.
Well, happy birthday to you, by the way.
Yeah, I know. It's weird. Turned 41 today. So.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. Last year was the big one. Every year I do a birthday concert. I didn't get to do one this year because we're going to Europe next year, and I'm going to do one of the metal festivals down there. So.
Oh. Is that safe? In what European country is that going to be?
Probably Germany.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, Germany's known for the metalheads, so I'm gonna just blend right in there.
Nice.
So, the wife's been gone all week, which is another birthday present. Now, I do love the wife, but whenever she's away, it's just, the shirt comes off, and you don't need to be wearing pants on the couch, stuff like that.
Yeah, you're the second person this week who's had a wife go away, and they've announced that they're going to be sitting on their couch with hardly any clothes on.
That seems to be a thing, I guess. Yeah. Well, it's also my diet changes when the wife leaves because she's all healthy and stuff and runs marathons. So I've been, I think you saw it on Facebook. I'd craft dinner and hot dogs with a beer, which I recommend wholly. And I've lived mostly on Mr. Noodles. So what this tells you about me is without my wife, I would die in a pile of noodles. So.
We met at the VoiceOver North conference for the first time, actually. I mean, we've been talking a little bit on the phone. You did not make the noodles thing aware to me in any form, but that's okay. And you've been doing lots of voiceover and podcasting this summer. So where do you want to start, with the voiceover or the podcast?
Well, I might as well start with the podcast.
Cool.
And you want to know?
You got more than one podcast, right? So, I mean, Dark Corner of Radio is your podcast. And it's on a small hiatus right now, and I think you got about 8, 9 episodes in there.
No, I got like 20.
20 episodes. I've listened to 8 or 9.
Thanks for your support, Matt. Okay. I appreciate that. Oh, it's my turn to talk now. Okay. Yeah. So Dark Corner of Radio, basically it's a storytelling podcast that kind of looks into some of the deeper, darker stories of media. And when I say darker, this isn't something you have to listen to with earphones on at work. It's very, very family friendly. I've got episodes about Charles Manson's start in the music industry, all the way up to why you should hate Nickelback. So it's just kind of a music history show that tends to fall a little bit on the darker side of things, but it still can be lighthearted.
Why do we need to hate Nickelback?
Well, I mean, it was actually just kind of a look at the science of sellouts. And I think one of the best bands that you can use as a reference would be Nickelback, as people seem to hate them for no good reason. So that's all it was.
Yeah, I suppose that's fair. I have a bit of a history with Nickelback. Do you have one as well? Do you have any Nickelback stories? Have you met Chad?
I have. I lived in Edmonton for several years, and he was a big fan of the Bear, or at least that's what we were told. And I spoke with him briefly on the phone during a contest to win Nickelback tickets. I've never shook his hand face to face, but I've always enjoyed their music. I don't see the problem with the band. I don't find any issues with them.
What was the contest? Was it on the Bear?
Yes, it was on the Bear, and so it was in the middle of January, and Nickelback was coming for a visit, and it was minus 35 plus wind chill, and Chad had an "It's So Cold" joke. Now, if you could ring up the station and have a better "It's So Cold" joke, you would win tickets, and I won them. The first one was "It's so cold that my bleep of a wife actually feels warm." And I forget the one I actually won on. Oh, yeah. "It's so cold outside that burning sensation when I pee feels nice."
Was that in the morning or the afternoon? Because it was the afternoon. That was me. I was on in the afternoon.
No, it was mornings.
It was mornings?
It was mornings. And I believe, oh, God, it wasn't the Triple H show yet. It was the one before that.
Well,
Can you remember?
Well, it would have been Sled Dog, Carson, and Jamie.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. There was one after Carson.
There was one after that.
It was right after, in between Triple H and Sled.
Well, it just would have been Sled Dog and Jamie at that point.
Was it Sled Dog and Jamie?
I think so. Well, it was me for 3 days. And then I said, I'm not getting up in the morning for this.
Well, or was it management going, yeah, we're gonna throw you to a different slot?
Yeah, they threw me to a different slot. They threw me to Montreal.
Oh.
And it was funny.
Well,
and the night Nickelback played that show where Jerry Cantrell opened, then I got that's the day I left for Montreal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. I actually went on live on the Bear shortly that summer, actually, guest host with Sled Dog. That was my first taste of radio.
Really? So you and I were passing in the station probably. I came in with an attitude, was like, what the fuck are these morning show people doing today? And who's this idiot they brought in? And clean up after yourselves. Something like that. That's generally what we would say to each other.
Well, it was also Park Warden came in. We opened up a beer. I recall that was a fantastic little experience. My first taste.
And, Chad Kruger from Nickelback, he'd hang out around the radio station. He'd bring in some records to, hey, what do you think of this song? We would give him advice. He wouldn't pay attention, and then he would become a success.
You know what? And you look at some of his history. He also used to bring in baked goods from his mom, by the way.
Yeah, Mom and Nickelback.
I did try some of that. But you look at some of his history and how he explains how he became such a hit maker was he sat down one day with the radio and just listened to everything that was played, and he took notes on every song to see exactly what was creating that hit. And How You Remind Me, when it came out, was the product of that time that he sat down with the radio. So, I mean, good on with the guy. They're not going to have to work ever again. And that's the whole point of doing music, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And, I would invite him into music meetings. And he would come in and sit down, and I think he listened to some of the bands that he opened up for at the time, like Seven Mary 3 and Creed and, a few of those other ones, and go, I understand that sound. I understand why radio people like this sound. If I can just stay, if I can keep my life cleaner than these other bands, I will probably be a success with my band. And I think he took a lot away from that. I think the process of watching how a radio station adds and subtracts records from the playlist was useful to him.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
That is just what record was he on while he was doing this? Was this The State or? Yeah,
there was The State. So I don't remember the first line of the song, and I should know this, but it's the one from 1999 that goes "Until You Swallow." It's the one about being on mushrooms.
That's the line.
Yeah. And your throat gets dry when you need to swallow because you're on mushrooms, right? And
can you sing it?
No, there will be no singing on a Facebook Live. I can assure you, there will be none whatsoever. But yeah, and I remember that, of course, we had him on the air to say, hey, well, talk about that song and how you came up with it. And he goes, hey, you guys remember that night when we were on shrooms? That's right. I'm sitting here going, crap. It's on the radio. And it's live, and there's nothing you can do. You can't go and scrub that. It's live. I'm like, oh, my God.
Officer, I don't have any on me at the moment. I'm sorry. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff I do for it's time intensive. There's a lot of hours that go into it, hence the hiatus. I'm taking August off to get my kids prepared for school, but 28 hours a week to do this thing. It's a labor of love, because that's all I get from it.
It takes 28 hours a week for you to put out a podcast episode?
Yes. It's there's research. If you screw up one single detail in this podcast, people will nail you to the wall. And it's happened on my second episode, Sound is a Weapon. This is embarrassing, and I don't know why I did it. I just got into the swing of the read. And when it came to Wagner, I was referencing Wagner, and I said Wagner. And I didn't catch it. The podcast episode went out, and I had message after message after message. You're an idiot. It's Wagner. It's Wagner. It's Wagner. And I'll just screw it. I had to take the episode down and redo it. But that shows you just how accurate you have to be with a historical podcast. You can't screw around, like, whatsoever.
Can I be nosy and ask how many downloads you get per episode, or?
Anywhere between, I think my latest one, The History of Porn Music, is sitting at 54. That was a week and a half ago. And I've gotten upwards of 186 on, I think that was Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah, and I was really insensitive and did not actually create a graphic for people to follow along. The podcast is called Dark Corner of Radio.
Yeah, that would have been helpful, actually.
It would have been incredibly helpful.
I could have sent you one, actually. Do you want me to do that right now as we speak?
No, I'm not. No, because right now we're going to take some time to talk about my new podcast, which is called the Hot Air Podcast. And,
okay.
And I have a graphic for that, but I obviously wasn't, kind enough to make one for you. So
you're putting in all the effort for me today, Matt. I love it.
You got to put some planning into these things. I mean, I don't even have you in a proper motioning screen today. I've got a screen capture of you.
Am I making a stupid face? Can you at least tell me I'm okay? Thank God.
It's actually worked out quite well, and I see. It's good. You got some weird lighting in there, which is great because it is the dark corner of radio.
Yeah, well, it's from my basement. So
all right, so you many episodes with many hours that go into it. I don't feel nearly as stupid. It takes me about 8 hours to put together one Sound Off podcast, but it's taking you obviously a lot more writing and a lot more creativity to get this this dark corner of radio to the level that you need to because of all the facts and fact checking that go into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's when I say it's a labor of love, it really is. I love storytelling. I'm an old school guy. I love Paul Harvey. Back in the day, he was the first guy that made me sit in my car and wait until his bit was over before I got out, which is the goal of radio. If you can make somebody stop and just not turn off their car until you're done talking, you are a successful radio person. And growing on that, there have been other influences over time. Alan Cross, I'm a huge fan of. And I just wanted my little piece of that. I love telling stories. I love the idea of somebody perhaps sitting in their car waiting for my bit to be over. And that's basically what I do it for. All ego. So
cool. So the thing about podcasters in your basement, it's true. You are in your basement.
Well, you know what? Really good sound quality down here.
Yeah.
I got a lot of clutter. So,
That's nice. And I see also behind you, you've got, is that for lighting?
Yeah. I do some YouTube stuff. My son actually is a streamer. He streams games. And he's probably more technically advanced than I am, at least in the streaming end of things. But he just moved down here and he's doing his part. So it's been a very busy basement as of late.
Nice. Let's zip on over to the voiceover side of things. Full disclosure for anybody who listens to the podcast, especially down in the U.S., you are an advertiser on the Sound Off podcast, and we thank you for that. For being a supporter of the show. That's not what got you on this show. You're actually a fairly interesting person. I do not put boring people on this yet.
You had a disclaimer there, eh?
You should.
Interesting.
You should have a disclaimer for that stuff. So, but we met at VoiceOver North, which was put together by Derbla Trainer, who is a fantastic voiceover talent of her own. and she's in Toronto, and put together VoiceOver North, which was a great conference that I went to, and I met you for the first time. And what'd you think of that conference?
It was fascinating to when I first sat down. I felt like I was out of my element. I didn't feel like I fit in. I felt I was way over my head. Even though I've got this set up, I'm a relatively new person to the voiceover industry. So I just didn't feel like I was in. And then I don't know, maybe about an hour and a half in, I felt like I was completely part of the crowd. And that had nothing to do with how people reacted to me. It was seeing how many people there were in less of a scenario than I was. I came in already getting work. I was working in the voiceover industry, so it's not like I was a hopeful. So it kind of emboldened me to reach out a little bit more to some of the people around there. And I made some great friendships there. Lisa Keys, we chatted. She's voiceover artist that's doing quite well in imaging, which is what I kind of wanted to get into. And it made me reach out a little bit more and be a little more open to considering myself an actual voiceover artist, which I never had before.
Yeah, you're never going to be what you want to be unless you actually wake up and call yourself that and do it every day.
Yeah, and dress the part. And I would suggest if you're in the industry, but you're just kind of cutting through all the garbage and trying to set your feet down, go to one of these. Go to some voiceover conference and just mingle. And it takes a lot of the mystery out of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what helped me the most. So
that's how I got into podcast. I went to one podcast movement to find out what it was all about, and I said, "Wait a second, I can do this and have fun at it." So that's.
And are you having fun?
Well, I'm doing it right now. I mean, this is sort of an extension of what it is, right? Here's the video version of it. That, and this is something I have to get over because I was always the program director at a radio station who said, "Hey, we're going to put cameras in the studio and we're really going to have this worldwide reach." And then all of a sudden, then it's just me and I have to put a camera on myself and do this. And I don't feel like doing it as much because I didn't shave. I got the wrong shirt. I got terrible lighting, which I do have terrible lighting in here today. And all that stuff. And I become very conscious. And then there's many ways to say no, but you just have to actually do it.
Yeah, it's true. And you know what I mean? What when you started putting cameras in the studios, did you have a hard time with a lot of jocks going naked?
No, I had pushback.
Oh, okay.
I had one morning show host who would constantly pick their nose. Yeah, that was a problem.
Like, did they have co-hosts?
Oh yeah, people can sometimes be rather unwell and not really care about the camera in front. So you shouldn't really pick your nose in front. The camera thing was it was hit and miss. So
really, you don't hear a lot of it nowadays. It's kind of one of those things. It's kind of gone the way of the dodo.
Yeah, I mean you have to have a look of some sort. This is what Instagram's all about. Everyone's got to have a look, and now we all have to have a look of some sort. You've got to be comfortable. You don't have to be marketable. You don't have to be pretty. You don't have to be good looking. You got to be you. And more than ever, the most successful people in radio are the ones who can be themselves. Now it's the same thing on YouTube. You've got to be yourself.
Yep.
And smile every once in a while.
Hey, do you have a YouTube account?
I do. I've got 2 of them.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
How's it going? Are you breaking through the YouTube?
I am not. I am not.
What's the most views you've got on one video?
Well, listen. When I was at Power 97, I think we would record some callers, and we would take the callers that we wouldn't air, and we would put them on YouTube. We would make movies out of them, and one of them went viral, and it's on my account. It's not even mine. So I just the guy didn't have an account, but it took off.
Some of your content that you've done, what do you figure most views ballpark? You don't have to tell me the exact.
150, whatever. Nothing great. I mean, I haven't gotten. What you need to do is you need to treat it like a podcast. You need to continue, and this is what we're doing. I mean, this essentially what you and me are doing right now is a pilot episode for what will become a weekly, what I hope will become a weekly YouTube or Facebook Live event. some form of streaming where we talk to people, because I love talking to people, but I can't bring people back on the podcast all the time.
No, and that's true.
We do your podcast episode. Sometimes, if you've got new data, we'll bring you on, but there's only so many times we can tell your story, and people will get confused. And some of the episodes will need updating. But why not do one where you could do this every week and have something live? Something more immediate. Podcast is something I want the shelf life of those to be a couple years. I want this one to be immediate.
Okay. It's interesting because my YouTube channel, I started it up while I was building my home studio. And I did unboxings for basically everything. I built my own custom PC. Then I got a board, I got a mic. And so I went through a couple boards, and the unboxings on that, I have 3,000 views on my Mackie unboxing. And I've got over 1,000 views on my Studio Live AR8 unboxing. And it just blew me away. I've only got 8 videos.
Yeah.
And they're piling up views, and I don't know what I'm doing right. I don't know how to get better at it. It's fantastic. Well, I've never been that successful at something.
People don't know how to unbox something, or they're interested in a product, and this is how you get success. I mean, listen, the Sound Off podcast is radio stories. It's 500 people a week think those are they come to it and they want to hear a story about somebody in radio, or they want to have a conversation, or they want to listen in. And I think listening in and just connecting at that level is perfectly fine. Listen, we love doing it with our morning show every day, and we do it, but we also like to listen in on something that's a little more specific and a little more niche, and that's unboxing products. Why not?
Yeah, I don't understand it. I'm feeding the system, yet I don't understand why people want to consume it, but I'm more than happy to do it. It's just weird for me. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, you mean that people actually like to watch you unbox things?
Yeah, and some of those videos are like 29 minutes long. Because I had no idea what I was doing. So, yeah, I'm going to continue. So as soon as I get money again, I'm going to start buying stuff that I can unbox once I get money.
And, for people who like podcasting, you actually have to put them up on YouTube. Listen, I don't have any of my podcasts up on YouTube, but putting them up on YouTube, people will just turn it on and listen to it. And are you allowed to put just audio up on YouTube? Sure, absolutely.
Okay, maybe I'll put mine up.
You should put all your episodes up, and you'll watch the numbers just go. And
really,
and you know what it is? If you look at YouTube's really easy. Just type it in and you go. You got the right keywords. You put in, Nickelback. You put in porn, whatever it is that you did, the history of porn music. What did you do again?
It was the history of porn music.
Right.
It's fascinating. Listen to my episodes, man.
But it pops up quickly on YouTube, and then people will listen to it. Unlike a podcast where it's just so cumbersome. You have to download it. You got to find it on your app. You got to go through. You got to scroll. You got to, this is why podcast with the handheld devices doesn't work as well as YouTube. In YouTube, you can have what you want in about 3 seconds.
Okay, I'm going to try to upload those because it has music clips in it. I don't know how well that'll get by the censors.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. I'll try.
That could be interesting.
Well, I'll cut down the music to like only 3 or 4 seconds and see if that flags anything. So.
Okay.
Because yes, I have figured out a loophole to get music into your podcast legally. Oh. As long as you're using it in an informational manner, it's a gray area for a lot of copyright.
Yeah, it may or may not be legal, but I will tell you one thing that I heard at Podcast Movement from a lawyer. The reason why there's not more lawsuits is because there's no money in podcasts. So,
nope.
If there was more money in podcasts, there'd be more lawsuits.
And I might change. I've got a second podcast coming out soon, so I will be more than happy to avoid using people's music. So this one has been a trial run.
Yeah, because
just call it that.
Because you have an extra 28 hours a week to kill.
Well, this one's going to be different. The new podcast coming out is called 7 Dirty Words, and it's going to be a conversation. It's going to be like a morning show in a podcast. So it won't be – there won't be a lot of editing. It'll be product done, cut it up, and send it out. So
nice.
I suspect about 2 hours max.
All right.
Yeah. So where were we? Voiceover.
Well, we were talking about voiceover, but if we can go back to that, I did put up on the screen here that aidenwolf.ca is where we can find you to listen to your demos and
Yeah. And please do, especially if you need a voice for your project. I'm the voice of WMMI in Michigan and hope to expand that list.
Well, now's a good time. Why don't you try to do a little bit of WMMI IDs? Can you do some of that right now? Do some live hits.
Now back to the Rush Limbaugh Show on WMMI, AM 830, and I forget the rest.
Where is this? Where is WMMI?
It's in mid-Michigan.
Michigan. With call letters like MI, I would assume it would be Michigan.
Yeah. And, great experience working with the PD down there, Sean Powers. It was kind of one of those things. I did my demo. And I had a good friend of mine. He's a producer, and he's one of the best young producers in Canada. I stand by that. He did up my demo for me. I threw it up on a Facebook page for radio programmers in the U.S. just to say, hey, guys, what do you think? Let me know. And I got about 4 or 5 messages asking, how much do you charge? And he was just like, here's my money. Do my imaging. And yeah, it was one of the easiest gig pickups that I've ever had in my life. And those have since calmed down. So
I can speak to what you're talking about because I have heard your demo, and I also want to point out that somebody who's on the live feed right now is Anthony McNutt, who is also a top-notch imaging, one of the best imaging persons in Canada. Works out of Q104 in Halifax, and he joins us today on the Sound Off.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah. All right. I don't have much else to cover with you unless you have anything else you'd like to cover. You can come back on this anytime because it's not like we're going to get any guests anytime soon starting this out. So
yeah. So I'm glad I could be your benchmark.
I can't even get the pictures to move on the screen here. So next time we'll instead of the Skype, I'll try the Google Hangouts and whatnot. So
work in progress.
Yeah. All right. So tell me how we can keep in touch with you.
AidenWolf.ca. It's the easiest way. The website. Just hit me up there. And if you have any questions, if you if you love the podcast, that'd be great. Listen to the podcast. Do that. Other than that, yeah, I'm around Facebook. I'm friends with you. So
yeah, cool. All right. Well, let's keep in touch. And good luck on that new podcast. And do you have a date, by the way, on that podcast?
We're recording next Wednesday. For the first one.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And I have no idea what's going to come for this. I've got a girl that has no experience, but she's very, 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 very funny. So, we'll see.
All right. Well, I should have asked this earlier. What platform are you hosting that on?
Blueberry.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So.
And by the way, I sort of got inspiration for what I'm doing here from Todd Cochran, who runs Blueberry. He's got the new media show on Saturday, and it is way higher production value than this one, and does not have a yoga block in the back of.
Do you have a yoga block back there?
There's a yoga block back there.
Do you do yoga?
Yeah, there's also a belt on the floor.
Have you seen my basement? Yeah. I don't know if I can really. Yeah. Yeah, it gets worse. Yeah. It really does get worse.
Don't move the camera. Nobody move the camera. Everything's fine. All right, my man. Take care, and we'll speak to you again soon, okay?
All right. Cheers, brother.
All right, man. See ya.